At a luxurious backyard party in an elite Atlanta suburb, a young black woman is slammed against a patio table by an off-duty white police officer. The music dies. Conversations stop. She struggles to breathe as he twists her arm hard enough to make her gasp. Guests pull out their phones, recording but staying silent. He leans in, hissing, "You don't belong here." The girl raises her bruised face and murmurs, "You have no idea who you're touching." No one does. Yet. Ariana Brooks, 22 years old, was the kind of law student professors fought to mentor. Sharp-minded, relentlessly prepared, and calm under pressure, she carried herself with a quiet confidence that made people underestimate her until she spoke. She was in her final year at Emory University, on a full merit scholarship, already receiving early offers from civil rights firms across the state. But beneath all her academic excellence lay a truth she rarely mentioned: she was the only daughter of Governor Evelyn Brooks, the first black woman ever to lead the state of Georgia. Ariana avoided the spotlight her mother lived in. She preferred moving through the world as a normal student, no security detail, no special introductions, no expectations tied to a last name. Tonight was supposed to be simple. Just a birthday party for her childhood friend Talia, held at a massive Brookhaven mansion, surrounded by twinkling lights, catered food, and a crowd that didn't think twice about the privilege their zip code provided. Ariana arrived early, wearing a soft cream dress and flat shoes, her hair braided neatly into a low bun. She held a small gift bag, smiling when she spotted Talia. But as Ariana moved through the crowd, she felt the shift, subtle at first, then unmistakable. Two girls near the drink table glanced at her, whispering behind manicured hands. "Who's she with? Are you sure you're invited?" Another woman, older, examined Ariana's outfit and mumbled, "Maybe she's the nanny. Someone should check." Ariana ignored it. She had heard these comments for years, race and class wrapped into tiny slashes meant to wound. But she refused to let anyone ruin Talia's celebration. She found a quiet spot near the pool, sipping lemonade, texting her mother a photo of the cake. Evelyn Brooks replied instantly with a string of hearts, her way of reminding Ariana that she was loved, even from the governor's mansion. Inside the house, however, someone else noticed Ariana. Officer Daniel Keaton, 37, off-duty but in uniform pants and a department polo, had already downed 3 bourbons. Broad-shouldered, flushed, and known among colleagues for a temper that came alive when liquor hit his bloodstream, he scanned the crowd with a sense of entitlement he believed came with his badge. When his eyes landed on Ariana standing alone, he squinted. A girl who didn't fit. A face he didn't recognize. A skin tone he already judged. He nudged his drinking buddy. "Who let her in?" Ariana didn't hear the comment. But she would hear the next one. Because Officer Keaton wasn't the kind of man who let his assumptions stay quiet. Officer Ryan Calder arrived at the party already carrying the swagger of a man used to being feared. 36, white, broad-built, off-duty but never off-ego, he had a reputation inside the department: aggressive arrests, bruised suspects, and a stack of misconduct complaints that mysteriously died before reaching internal affairs. He believed the wealthy Brookhaven crowd respected him. And he believed just as strongly that people who looked like Ariana Brooks didn't belong in places like this. He spotted Ariana near the patio lights, helping a little girl find her dropped bracelet. Calder's eyes narrowed, scanning her from head to toe as if she were a threat instead of a guest. He spoke loudly, ensuring half the party heard him. "Who let you in here?" Ariana straightened, surprised by his tone. "I'm here as a guest." Calder cut her off with a sharp laugh. "You live around here?" "Yeah, right." "Doubt it." A few teenagers glanced over. Others lifted their phones, sensing drama. Ariana inhaled slowly, keeping her voice even. "I was invited. If you'd like, I can show you. Again, Calder scoffed. Let me guess, you know somebody who knows somebody. That's cute. Ariana took a step to leave, not wanting a scene, but Calder shifted in front of her, blocking the path with his full body weight. He leaned in, lowering his voice but not the hostility. You're acting nervous. You hiding something? She met his stare. No. And unless you have a lawful reason to detain me, please move. That was the moment something in Calder snapped. Not because she'd done anything wrong, because she dared to speak to him as an equal. Because a black woman standing firm felt, to him, like a challenge. He pulled out his phone and said loudly into it, "This is Officer Ryan Calder. I have a suspicious black female at a private residence. Possible drug possession." Gasps rippled across the patio. The music cut off mid-beat. Someone whispered, "Is he serious?" Ariana held her ground. "You have no probable cause. You are fabricating." Calder seized her wrist before she could finish, twisting her arm behind her back with unnecessary force. The metallic click of handcuffs echoed across the yard. "Stop resisting," he growled, though she wasn't resisting at all. The cuffs dug into her skin instantly, biting so deep she winced. Calder yanked her forward, dragging her across the manicured lawn toward the driveway where dim lights cast harsh shadows. Ariana stumbled, her heel caught the edge of a stone border and she fell hard, knees scraping the concrete. Blood smeared across her shin. She barely lifted her head before Calder struck her across the face with an open palm. The impact rang in her skull, bright and dizzying. A few guests screamed. A man shouted, "Hey! You can't do that." But Calder shot him a glare so lethal he stepped back. Ariana swallowed pain, refusing to break. "You're violating the Fourth Amendment," she said, voice low but steady. Calder leaned down, hatred burning in his eyes. "And you're violating my patience." He dragged her upright again, ignoring the blood trailing down her leg, ignoring the small crowd gathering, ignoring the phones recording from trembling hands. What he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the bruised young woman he was humiliating wasn't just a law student. She was the daughter of the most powerful elected official in the state. And the moment she made one call, everything he thought he controlled would collapse around him. The moment Officer Ryan Calder hauled Ariana onto the driveway, the party atmosphere dissolved into tight-breathed silence. Someone's phone camera flash flickered. Another guest whispered, "I'm already live streaming, this is insane." Within minutes, TikTok and Instagram feeds filled with shaky footage of a young black woman in handcuffs, sitting on the concrete with blood streaking down her leg. Comments surged in real time, flashing across screens. "She's literally just sitting there. This dude is drunk, you can hear it in his voice. Why is he pulling her like that? Is she a threat to anyone?" Calder, energized by the attention, puffed out his chest and moved closer to the phones. "She tried to hit me," he announced, gesturing at Ariana as though she were a wild animal loose at a gala. "She's unstable. She trespassed. We're removing her for everyone's safety." The crowd murmured, confused and increasingly uncomfortable. Ariana had done none of those things, and every camera angle captured that clearly. Ariana sat on the ground, wrists twisted unnaturally behind her. Her palms tingled, then numbed. Pain shot up her forearms, but she never raised her voice. "I request legal counsel," she said, breathing steadily despite the throbbing in her cheek where he had struck her. Calder snorted. "You'll request nothing," he replied, pacing in front of her like a man performing for an audience that never asked for a show. A few guests tried to approach, but he barked, "Back up unless you want to be arrested too." One man whispered, "She's not even resisting, this is going to blow up." It already had. Across the yard, Ariana's purse lay on a patio chair where it fell when Calder first grabbed her. Her phone vibrated under the table's shadow. Then vibrated again. And again. Finally, it vibrated so long the light glowed through the thin fabric of the purse. Ariana's friend, Lila, noticed and hurried over, hoping it was someone who could help. She retrieved the phone, just as Calder stormed over and snatched it out of her hand. "Give me that," he shouted. "It's her property," Lila snapped. "She has the right. Stay out of police business." The phone screen lit up with the incoming caller ID. Governor Evelyn Brooks. Calder didn't even read it. He just jabbed his finger on the red decline icon and tossed the phone on the ground. The live stream caught everything. Viewers exploded in disbelief. He just hung up on the governor. Oh, he's done. Bro, this is career suicide. But Calder wasn't done humiliating himself. He turned back to Ariana and sneered, "Whoever that was, tell them you'll be unavailable for a while." Ariana stared back, her voice soft but razor-sharp. "That call was for you, Officer Calder. Not for me." He scoffed, rolling his eyes. "Yeah. And who exactly do you think?" Calder froze. The phone began ringing again. 3 sharp vibrations. A personalized emergency alert tone, one used only by state officials. The screen displayed the caller's title in bold letters, fully visible to the livestream audience. Governor Evelyn Brooks, priority line. A collective gasp rippled across the guests. Lila whispered, "Ryan, you really don't know who she is." Calder's bravado flickered, confusion surfacing beneath his bravado. Ariana lowered her gaze to the phone, then lifted her chin with calm precision, her wrists still cuffed, her dignity untouched. She spoke clearly enough for every camera, every guest, and every viewer online to hear. "You just ignored the governor of Georgia. And you assaulted her daughter." The live stream chat exploded. And Calder finally felt the first jolt of fear crack through his arrogance. The second call came through, and this time Ariana's friend Lila managed to grab the phone before Calder could swat it away again. She hit accept, bringing the device to her ear with trembling fingers. "Hello? Ariana?" It was the governor's voice, steady, powerful, unmistakably urgent. But instead of Ariana answering, Evelyn Brooks heard chaos. She heard Calder's drunken barking, "Stay down. Don't move." She heard guests shouting. She heard her daughter's faint, shaky breathing. Then she heard Ariana gasp in pain as Calder twisted the cuffs tighter. That was all it took. Evelyn didn't ask another question. She hung up. She didn't call local police. She didn't call the mayor. She activated the governor's emergency protective protocol, an order reserved for threats against state officials or their family members. Exactly 15 minutes later, the quiet suburban street erupted into a blaze of sirens, lights, and armored SUVs. A convoy of 8 black vehicles rolled through the gated entrance. Georgia State Patrol led. 2 SUVs carried Governor Security Command. Behind them, a press car trailed, because once the governor moved, the media followed. Guests dropped their drinks. Someone whispered, "Is that the governor's motorcade?" Another muttered, "Oh my God. Oh my God." But Calder, still swollen with ego, laughed nervously. "What the hell is this? Some kind of parade?" He didn't grasp the gravity. Not yet. When the door of the lead SUV opened and Governor Evelyn Brooks stepped out, the party sank into a stunned, reverent hush. The governor looked regal in her tailored navy suit, but her eyes, those were lethal. They scanned the yard. They found her daughter sitting on the concrete, wrists bruised purple, blood drying on her knee. For a moment, the world stopped. Ariana. Her voice cracked, not with fear, but with fury she fought to contain. Ariana lifted her head. Mom. Evelyn moved forward with the speed of a mother, not a politician, but the control of a leader who had commanded crises far worse than this. Her security detail parted around her like a shield. Then she reached the center of the yard and faced Officer Ryan Calder. Up close, she could smell the alcohol on him. Her tone cut like a blade. Officer Calder. Remove those cuffs. Now. Calder's bravado evaporated. Madam Governor. She resisted, she was acting, suspicious. Evelyn stepped closer. The cameras zoomed in. Guests held their breath. You laid hands on my daughter, she said, every syllable sharp, because you assumed she had no one to protect her. Her voice deepened. You believed you could brutalize a young black woman at a private home and walk away without consequence. Calder's mouth opened, but nothing came out. His hands shook. Evelyn turned to Sergeant Barrett, the sober officer who had just arrived, horrified at what he was seeing. Sergeant Barrett, she commanded, place Officer Calder under arrest for assault, unlawful detainment, and abuse of authority. The entire yard gasped. Barrett didn't hesitate. Yes, Governor. He took out his cuffs. Calder stumbled backward. Arrest? You can't arrest me. I'm a police officer. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. Not anymore. Calder's panic swelled into hysteria. He looked around wildly, at the cameras, the guests, the governor advancing like an implacable force. No, wait, she's lying, I didn't know who. That, Evelyn said coldly, is exactly the problem. Just then, cameras captured the moment Calder's legs buckled. A dark stain spread down the front of his pants. Gasps rippled across the backyard. Phones zoomed in. Live stream chats exploded. Calder had wet himself in front of the governor, officers, and 200,000 online viewers. Sergeant Barrett stepped behind him and secured the cuffs with practiced precision, ironically, the same way Calder had humiliated Ariana minutes earlier. As Calder was led away, Evelyn crouched next to her daughter, gently checking her wrists and knee. It's over, she said quietly. You're safe now. Ariana nodded. For the first time that evening, she allowed herself to inhale fully. But the night, the story, the consequences were only just beginning. The special hearing convened only 3 days after the incident, held inside the Georgia state capitol. It wasn't just a disciplinary review. Governor Evelyn Brooks had ordered a full civil rights inquiry under state emergency authority. The room overflowed with reporters, civil rights attorneys, police officials, law students from Emory, and ordinary citizens who had followed the viral video. At the center table sat Officer Ryan Calder, pale and shaking, wearing a loner suit that still carried a faint smell of last night's panic. His attorney tried to whisper instructions, but Calder couldn't stop staring at the screens mounted around the chamber. The first image was his own face, frozen in the moment he'd shoved Ariana onto the patio table. The room fell silent. Governor Brooks stepped to the podium, her expression composed but unyielding. Before we begin, she said, this committee must see the officer's complete record. A large dossier appeared on the center monitor. Pages upon pages flipped automatically, each stamped with complaint numbers. Brutality. Unlawful detainment. Targeting black teens in traffic stops. Harassment reports filed by Latino residents. All ignored. All buried. 23 formal complaints, Governor Brooks said clearly. Not one investigated properly. She turned slightly toward Calder. Not one. Calder swallowed hard. His attorney objected, rambling about irrelevant past grievances, but the committee chairwoman silenced him with a single look. Proceed. Then came the footage, the live stream that had broken the internet. The first clip showed Ariana standing calmly with a drink in her hand before Calder stormed toward her. The next clip showed him accusing her of drug possession without basis. Another clip, Calder gripping her arm, slamming her onto the grass. Another, Ariana wincing as he twisted her cuffed wrists. Another, Calder striking her across the face. Every gasp in the room echoed like a hammer. Then came the clincher, unedited audio from one of the guests' phones. Calder's drunken slur rang through the speakers. "She doesn't belong here. People like her never do." A murmur swept the chamber. Calder's attorney demanded the audio be thrown out. The committee denied the request. Briggs, the investigating sergeant from the local precinct, tried to defend Calder's state of mind, but the footage made every excuse crumble. Governor Brooks stepped aside, and Ariana walked slowly to the microphone. Her wrists were still bruised, still visible. Her voice was steady. "When an officer is drunk," she began, "he is not upholding the law. When an officer invents crimes, he is not protecting the community. When an officer targets someone because of their race, he is not upholding the badge, he is weaponizing it." She looked directly at Calder. "Your badge is meant to protect the public. Not your ego." There wasn't a sound in the room. Even the cameras seemed to stop clicking. Ariana continued, her words measured, carved from everything she'd endured and everything she studied in law. "You were confident because you thought I was alone. You were wrong. But the bigger tragedy is this: if I were not the governor's daughter, you would have walked away from this without consequences. And that is why this hearing matters. Not for me, but for the people who didn't have a convoy coming for them." Half the room stood in silent agreement, others wiped tears. The committee began deliberations. Calder trembled, staring at the table, every breath shallow. It took them less than 2 hours. When they returned, the forewoman spoke clearly. "We find Officer Ryan Calder guilty on all counts: assault, unlawful detainment, falsifying a police report, and civil rights violations." The chamber erupted, some cheering, some crying, all aware they had just witnessed a turning point. Calder slumped in his chair, defeated. Ariana simply lowered her gaze, grateful, resolute, and ready for what came next. The sentencing came swiftly. Judge Eliza Porter made it clear the court had no patience for officers who treat authority as a personal weapon. Ryan Calder was handed 4 years in state prison, stripped of all police certifications, pension rights, and veteran benefits he once assumed were untouchable. The courtroom watched as he was led away in cuffs, the same steel he had used to humiliate others for years. But the consequences didn't end with him. In a historic ruling, the state compensated 14 of Calder's previous victims, whose complaints had been ignored or buried under departmental politics. Their testimonies, some stretching back nearly a decade, finally received the acknowledgement and justice they deserved. Standing at the Capitol steps later that week, Governor Evelyn Brooks addressed the press with Ariana by her side. She announced House Bill 2891, a sweeping police accountability and civil rights reform package sparked directly by her daughter's case. The bill included mandatory body cam activation with felony penalties for tampering, a statewide ban on off-duty officers initiating law enforcement actions without immediate cause, quarterly psychological evaluations for all officers with histories of force-related complaints, a centralized anti-bias behavior index, tracking misconduct, complaint patterns, and racial disparities in stops. The bill passed with unprecedented bipartisan support. Activists called it the most aggressive accountability framework in modern Georgia history. Within months, Georgia transformed from a state plagued by misconduct controversies into a national model. Other governors requested copies of the bill. Civil rights groups praised its transparency provisions. And for the first time in years, residents of marginalized communities felt a shift, small, but real. Justice hadn't erased the harm, but it had finally turned its eyes toward prevention. Ariana healed slowly, bruises fading, confidence returning, resolve sharpening. She finished her final semester at Emory with top honors and accepted an offer from the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. The girl who once sat bleeding on a patio now stood in courtrooms defending those who had no convoy, no governor, no cameras to protect them. One afternoon, after guest lecturing at a law seminar, a student lingered behind and asked her softly, "What gave you the strength that night? When he hurt you, how did you stay so calm?" Ariana smiled, the kind of smile earned through fire. "Knowing the law isn't enough," she said. "You must know your worth. When you know that, no one can take it from you." Her story spread across campuses and communities, a reminder carved from truth. Not every silent black girl is powerless. Not every plain dress signals insignificance. And sometimes, the person you dismiss without a thought, is the one capable of reshaping an entire system.